The victim in this case was your 14-year-old niece. You were 22 years old at the time. On August 3rd of 2020, the victim was watching two children, I believe ages 1 and 5, at your residence. The report says you asked the victim to come over and watch those children while you went to the store. The report says you returned and smelled of marijuana. It says you then forced, I think the official report says you shoved the victim into a bedroom.
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a monster who did that to his niece. Now, his full term date is 2040, but he is up for parole, of course, 16 years early because it's Utah. I'll unpack it with the details at the end.
I'll talk a little bit about how the hearing works from there. There's two cases in which you were committed to prison. We'll talk briefly about what happened in each of those cases. After that, I have some questions for you about what's brought us here, what you've been doing recently, and your plans moving forward. And then at the end of the hearing, I'll give you the final word, and you can say anything else you'd like to, okay?
Hey, that sounds awesome. Thank you, man.
Your commitment offenses are attempted rape, felony 2, and assault by prisoner, felony 3. You're serving a maximum sentence of between 1 and 20 years in prison. I think the 0 to 5, the felony 3 was consecutive to the felony 2, 1 to 15. As of now, those sentences will expire on August 5th of 2040. That's the longest time the board can hold jurisdiction over your case, or in other words, keep you incarcerated or on parole. Your parole guideline based on your convictions is 46 months. That guideline passed on June 5th of 2024. Obviously, the guidelines are not binding on the board. They can keep you incarcerated longer than that, and they'll make a decision after today's hearing based on consideration of all relevant factors in your case to determine what's appropriate. I do note that in April of 2022, the board scheduled this current hearing. They noted an expectation that you complete or substantially complete all recommended sex offender treatment program and remain compliant with your case action plan. So the first case we need to talk about is case 2017-00128. The victim in this case was your 14-year-old niece. You were 22 years old at the time. On August 3rd of 2020, the victim was watching two children, I believe ages 1 and 5, at your residence. The report says you asked the victim to come over and watch those children while you went to the store. The report says you returned and smelled of marijuana. It says you then forced, I think the official report says you shoved the victim into a bedroom, removed her pants, touched her private parts with your fingers, and, quote, put your private parts inside her. It describes really sexual intercourse. The victim attempted to push you away, but you held her wrist and arms down. She told you to get off several times, but you did not. I've reviewed your pre-sentence report statement as well as your Board of Pardons packet statement, but is that summary accurate as to what happened in the case?
Today, yeah, I just want to take accountability for all of that. So, I
is
just
that
want to
accurate
say
as
that
to what
one more.
happened?
Oh, sorry. Did you say that again?
Is that accurate as to what happened? The acts that I just described, is that accurate as to what happened in the case?
Well, if it were to be really blunt, well,
Yeah, certainly you're under oath right now, so honest answers is what I would appreciate and expect. But yeah, so what happened in that case?
Okay, so I did review her statement. Sorry, I'm speaking down to this to make sure you can hear me good. So if I'm looking down, it's just like
I can hear you. Yeah.
okay. So I had that during that night, that incident, I had actually I said that I went to the store, but I had actually went to go pick up some drugs, and during that night I did use I was under the influence of methamphetamine, and I don't know why it's in the cop report, because I did admit to it when I was in county, but I don't know why they're not putting it on there, but I was under methamphetamines, and all of that, of course. And then I had seen these allegations against me, and then I had turned myself in afterwards, basically, just because I was just getting these text messages, you know what I mean? And my sisters had been telling me that, but she's not like I just want to clear one more thing up too. I'll probably do this towards the end because I do have another thing short, so I'll save that last part towards the end. It's
So did you so I guess, I'll quote here. the victim into a bedroom, removed her pants, touched her finger, and then had course with the victim. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's all accurate. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
just
well,
taking
thank you for your comments, about that case. I will note those for the board. And then certainly at the end of the hearing, if you have further comments, I'll allow you to make those. The second case is case 2117-00092. I think this happened June 2021 in the Grand County Jail. There was a fight between you and another inmate. It was shown on camera. The report discusses it. I think the other individual had a mop handle, was swinging it around the section. I think eventually, walked towards you in an aggressive manner. This led to, a fight or a struggle in which you took the victim to the ground and attempted to punch the victim while on the ground, wrapped your legs around this victim. What caused this fight to occur?
I believe that it was I just had told him I had this is CJ Brown, correct? Because I had pleaded 2 counts. I can't quite remember this one exactly. Is this CJ Brown?
June 24th, 2021, Grand County Jail. The individual, quote, swung the mop handle at the back of a TV. Someone else tried to take the mop handle away from him.
Okay, never mind. Yeah. So this actually originally, I believe, started over the TV remote, and it was just I was just immature, and I had told him if he wants to watch TV, he needs to clean the pod.
Okay. Well, I'll note your comments as well about that case. So since arriving at the facility, you successfully completed MRT and anger management. You were briefly in the pre-sex offender treatment program. The sex offender treatment discharge summary, it says you were removed from the program. It says, quote, you made Tinder profiles for you and other inmates, I think with the assistance of someone in the community. It said, quote, in your board packet, you said, I've been writing letters to the SOTP program trying to reapply and still haven't received a reply. You talk about being pulled from the program, writing various letters. So let's start from here. So you did the anger management and the MRT. You were briefly in the pre-SOTP program. What have you learned in the programs and classes that you have done?
Your Honor, we started off right away just initially stating our charges in the case, and when we were stating the case, we had state of course all the victim impact statements or the cop report. So basically what we just went over is what I had stated to him, and that's I got like some notes on that because it was such a big issue for me to hear him say that. I've been reading this report, and I had marked down just some things that he's restated because I got this board book. So I had written you a letter previous just before this, and then I finally got my border packet, and so I'm like finally getting this review, and I'm finally knowing what's going on with me a little bit more. I'm starting to hear a perspective of what's really going on. And I just had reread all of this, and I just didn't like the fact that he said I was unaccountable just because I came in there and just like today, I came into the program as if I was going to the board, and I knew that while entering that program, I knew that I had to come in there. I had to state that I had sexually assaulted somebody, I had raped somebody, or whatever. I came in there knowing that I had to paint myself as a monster just to make sure I can get to the next level. So I didn't really like the fact that he had rephrased a few things in the statements. I do have everything noted here, but I will wait for you for that approval.
Well, what led to you creating Tinder profiles while in the program? That's the relevant portion I'm trying to get at. And certainly the reason the board set the expectation for you to do sex offender treatment is to gain some insight, right, into the behaviors that brought us here. And I think that it speaks for itself, creating a Tinder profile while in an SOTP program. What led to that happening?
Really, it wasn't really my idea. I just had I had a family member who was nice enough to help us because she knows how it is being locked up. And to be blunt, my friends had just been talking about wanting to find friends to talk to. And I had tried as soon as I was in trouble for this, I did get a copy of the rules. I tried to get a copy of the letter for the board and for SOTP, just because I when he did come talk to me, I had noticed that he had rephrased that whole letter, but he wouldn't. I couldn't get a copy of the letter due to they said that the jailer said that I can't get a copy of the letter because
So
my
do you deny that you created a Tinder profile or worked with someone else to create a Tinder profile? Do you deny that?
no.
Okay, well, so, all right. Well, now that you're talking about the discharge summary, so it was prepared by Derek Bethea, LCSW. So it looks like you received and reviewed a copy of that. My review, so it shows and identifies an above average risk of reoffense using the general static 2007 static or stable 2007 static 99R assessment tools. Talks about being, removed from the program. It says you made little, quote, if any progress. It says you were working on the first workbook, self-reflection at the time. It talks about risk factors that you had identified: unemployment, criminal belief system, pride, violence, alcohol and drug consumption, secrecy, lack of communication, blaming others, pornography, pretentiousness, and association with known felons. Talks about your treatment and supervision attitude. It says you entered what the therapist describes as a distrust towards the therapeutic process. It said you, quote, blamed your past failures on authority figures and external consequences. Talks about concerns to be addressed in future treatment. So learning to trust the therapeutic process and address your sexual assault in a direct manner. So addressing the behavior in the case directly in therapy. It recommends, based on your says, quote, to manage these issues, it's recommended that you, quote, not be granted parole until you've successfully completed the preparing to change and CBISO treatment programs while incarcerated. Obviously, after today's hearing, the Board of Pardons will make the ultimate decision on release, any treatment that's recommended, et cetera. But do you have any, do you agree with the recommendations that are made in that document?
To be honest, I was headbutting with that therapist the whole time. I didn't like the fact that he said that I came in distrusting, because I came up to him extremely open and honest, extremely blunt, and to where that's what it leads to. I got like I said, I did my homework. I went through his whole thing, and I'm going through his report. And I just, like I said, I literally have a whole thing for you already right here. I'm just waiting for that time to be the appropriate time. But I definitely
Right
don't
now,
think
you know,
I
now,
definitely
now
don't
it's fine.
agree with
Bless
him
you.
to an extent, but I just want you to know I'm still willing to do the program or whatever. I just want you to know, like, it's been a hassle just for me to get into this program. I mean, they literally pulled me late. When I got pulled to the program late, I knew I was getting a later release date. I came in there just knowing I'm getting out later and later. And I just want you to know, like, I'm just sitting here, and it's really just been like I literally been ignored for a year, and I got documents actually. I got documents, IPP forms of me trying to get into this program for over a year. Upon that situation, while being
For a
kicked out.
year, you were, I think you were taken out of the program 8 months ago.
Yeah,
So what
when
are
I
you
was
talking about
eligible for.
a year ago? Or sorry, but please expound, because am I misunderstanding? It said you were removed in December of 2023 when you, quote, attempted to set up a Tinder account for yourself and 3 other inmates. And then it says you were had to wait until a certain time. So March 2024, they said you could apply to get back in. So I guess, are you saying that for the last 3 months or so, you've been trying to get back in?
Yeah, so originally, actually, so the smart, this is what I can tell you about too. That smart review, I didn't get issued in April. I had that smart review issued in August 2022. So that's originally when I'm eligible for the program. And since of August 2022, I had written kites for over a year, and I got IPP forms from Davis County to my caseworker, where it states on every paper you will see me trying to get into SOTP. My caseworker had turned in 2 letters for me personally, where I was literally counted out to Beaver before I even got to the program. I got counted out again, and so I'm originally pulled late, and then I was eligible, just another date. I was eligible for the program on March 5th, not the 24th, just so you know. And since March 5th, I've already written 5 letters, and they literally ignored me again. And the only reason I got into this program was due to the board. Actually, finally, like I got my acceptance letter finally, and it says due to the board part. And so I just wanted to thank you guys for that, because I mean, Candace Wiltcher, Green Salt Lake, I mailed them, but they really ignore my letters, and I really got documents of me mailing them, just so you know.
So I've read your letters, and I appreciate what you've said today. I'll report those frustrations. And it sounds like I think I misunderstood you. You were talking about a year before you got into the program that you were trying to. So I'll note that for the board. If you're willing, I really think the relevant issue and what I'm interested in is when you are allowed to get back into treatment. There's issues that need to be addressed in treatment. Those need to be talked about directly. And certainly, creating a dating profile in a sex offender treatment program is not going to work. So what do you need to change so that you can have a successful experience in programming? You yourself, what needs to change in your mentality, in your approach, so that you can have a different result?
Um, to be honest, I'm really on good behavior right now. Not coming into this program, I just want to let you know, not coming into this program on time. I'm just sitting there like in Davis County. I'm sitting here in Beaver County, not getting in this program, and I'm just sitting there thinking like, oh man, the board's gonna hold me back because I didn't get this program done. Oh man, I'm like, I know this program was crucial or whatever, but so I just want you to know, like right now, I'm really on good behavior. The fact
Sure,
that
to the extent. So, and sorry to interrupt. You don't have any write-ups. I don't even think the incident that led to you being released, it led to a write-up as far as I show. You've had jobs, tray line, janitor, emergency COVID worker, I think 18 months of work, and I show good and excellent ratings at your jobs. Housing reports generally are positive. So I do note that, and that's in my report, and the board will consider that if you are, as they're considering your case. It sounds to me, as you're talking, and maybe I'm misunderstanding you, it sounds like you would like the opportunity to do treatment in the community, possibly, or what do you think needs to happen so that you can do treatment? What are your thoughts on treatment? Maybe let's just do this in terms of a release plan. If you're granted parole, what would that look like? Where would you live, work, do treatment, etc.?
Well, I like that point of view. Right now, I'm gonna be really just blunt with you. I've heard you can go to another county, and I've heard that county they did the pre and the core at the same time. So I'm like willing to do your program. I just know that I had with this caseworker, like he was, or this therapist. My apologies. We were really headbutting, but it's like I'm not really trying to headbutt. It was just the way he.
If you don't mind, my question was, if you're granted parole, what would your release plan look like? Where would you live? Where would you work? And where would you do treatment?
Well, due to me seeing the victim's statement, the mother's statement of 2021, I did take that in consideration. Just so you know, she just stated. I just remember stating because it's the closest thing that ever got to her from anybody, and so she just stated she didn't want anything to do with me. So I plan on just really leaving the area. I go on to the halfway house. I would like to go to my sister's in Colorado, but at this point, I just got all these parole stipulations that I'm gonna have to follow. So I'm going to I'm just letting you know, even if I don't get into this, I'm still going to the halfway house regardless. And I know that I have more programming on the outs. And so I just want you to know I'm just doing everything. I'm just completely leaving. I just don't want anything to do with
If I'm understanding you correctly, you'd do treatment at a halfway house. Is that what you're saying? Okay, and I'm not saying, I think the board already set an expectation of treatment while incarcerated. The SOTP program recommended treatment while incarcerated. After today's hearing, the board will make that decision. But, since you're making these comments, I wanted to ask what your plan was if you were allowed something else. So thank you for those comments. You've answered the questions that I have for you. And how would you say your mental health is currently?
I think it's better. It's better than it's ever been.
Okay. Let me just, if you don't mind, make sure I covered everything that I wanted to, and then I'll give you the final word to state anything else you'd like to. Okay, those are specifically the questions I had, and we have a couple minutes remaining. Anything else you'd like the board to know?
So I just wanted to address like some of the big factors of this report. So I'm just sitting here and I'm just basically addressing him in a factor where he's saying I'm just putting us big things that were big to me, that were more of like in my control type deal. So I said I just kind of rewrote some of the things that are written on the review that I have. So I have in okay, so this is more just the accountable issue. So I'm just wanted to restate these because of he just rewarded everything to where it seemed like the therapist just really he was really just he really irritated me just from this, like this is like I'm just sitting here reading nothing but negativity, I'm just thinking like on top of that, some of these seem like outdated. So I said page 2 category pro criminal attitude. During the interview, Mr. Delafuente stated he is too pretty for these charges. Mr. Delafuente denies committing the crime he was convicted of and stated it was a he said, she said situation. Mr. Delafuente
That's the pre-sentence report, right? And as I understand your current statement, you admit that the offenses happened as described, correct?
correct. That's what I'm trying to.
So I think I've got that.
Okay. So, but yeah, I was just basically he's just saying that I'm just reading all these and he's just saying that like I'm denying all these charges, and I know I don't want to waste your time or anything, like anything like that, but if I may continue, may I?
Got about 2 minutes left.
Oh.
2 minutes you can take.
Okay, well, basically, I'm just reading this report, and he's just saying like I'm denying all these charges.
Just quickly, if you don't mind, this is the pre-sentence report, correct?
This is the board of pardons. This is the report from the therapist.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Now I've got you. Please continue.
Okay. Mr. Delafuente did not take any responsibility for his sex offense. He placed blame on the victim and stated he was wrongly judged as he did not commit the crime. Additionally, Mr. Delafuente reported he took the wrong advice and direction from his attorney. Mr. Delafuente appears to be in pre-contemplation stage as he denies there is a problem, denies he committed a sex offense, and appears to have no interest in addressing how this offense occurred. Mr. Delafuente, the fact that he fought his case for a year and had to go to trial must demonstrate his innocence to others. So I just really wanted to point that out because that was like something I thought was pretty crucial because I literally came in there. I came in there blunt. I came in there honest. I literally came into the therapist knowing what to say. Like I literally knew that ahead of time that I had to come in there and say that I had committed these crimes. So I didn't like the fact that he put all this down like as if some of these are from trial statements, like some of these are stories of my trial that I had told him about because he asked for the depth of my trial. So I had told him I really told him the blunt depth of my trial, why I was going to trial, etc. But he had rephrased it everything to where he's saying like I'm like unaccountable. So I just really wanted to point that out in his review.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Delafuente. We are out of time. I'll note your comments. I've read all your letters. If you have further input, please send those in writing. I will note the statements and comments that you've made at today's hearing from here. What I'll do is take your case under advisement. I've put together a report of what I reviewed prior to today's hearing. I'll include what you and I have talked about today at the hearing into that report, and then I'll submit that to the members of the board sometime this week. There's 5 board members. They make decisions by majority vote. Usually that takes, we say, between 2 to 4 weeks for a decision to be made. Once a decision is made, we'll send it to you in writing through the mail. And thank you for being here. Wish you the best of luck moving forward, and we'll go ahead and conclude today's hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm happy to tell you that he was denied. Now, he's been given a rehearing date as of June 2026, so 2 years from the time of the hearing. I mean, if you ever want to see someone that is just so, scary looking, everything about him is terrifying. Just so you see the way his mind works. And the parole board officer, the poor guy, he's trying to like Richard said, pull teeth. That's how I felt also. There's something very off. And let's just remember why he's locked up. He's locked up because he did that to his niece. His niece. And the idea that he can even have a parole hearing, this is why the parole, the sentencing in Utah, they're gimmicks. I mean, he's given like a 40-year sentence, or I think it was a 35, then he got another felony while in prison. We'll go over that. And he talks about the Tinder profiles, and he's just so clueless. He's like, he sets up Tinder accounts while in sex offender programs, and it doesn't even process him. He doesn't even realize that he's just like, well, we were lonely, so we wanted to set it up. Thank God I have a family member that would set it up for me. I mean, that was like, what? Oh man, I mean, he's clearly dangerous. He needs to, there are certain people that just need to be locked up, and they can't. They're not, they're just not. They need to be locked up. It's that simple. A 22-year-old Moa man faces first-degree felony charges of sexual assault following his arrest on Tuesday, August 4th. The alleged incident occurred the day before when he, according to Moa police, he sexually assaulted a female who he had asked to watch his children, and these were his niece. And asked to watch 2 children. This was his niece, remember. According to the detective who interviewed the alleged victim, age unreported, Delafuente told the children to stay in the living room when he took the woman into the bedroom. And at first I was upset when I read this. It says woman, but again, they don't know her age. He was taken into custody Tuesday after Moa police interviewed the alleged victim and her mother at the regional hospital on Monday. The officer in his report said that he contacted the alleged victim's mother and told her he was at his mother's home. The officer said Delafuente would only talk if only one officer was present, and that he could confront the alleged victim in front of his family. He thought he would make the rules. And I mean, you can picture it. You can actually see him saying that to the detective. I will only talk if there's one police officer present and I need to confront her in front of her family. The officer said, this isn't how it works. And instead he was read his rights. And that he remained silent, saying only he wasn't a snitch. I'm not a snitch. It's like the guy's he's clearly not all there. And then here's where you picked up another felony for a fight. So 2 inmates in the Grand County Jail faced felony assault charges over an alleged fight resulted in injury for one of them. The incident allegedly occurred just after 9 p.m. He picks up a felony in prison. This is how messed up. I mean, in 2020, and they still see him 4 years later for a parole hearing. Like, I don't think this would ever happen in Louisiana. Well, maybe I'm wrong. About 20 minutes later, a Grand County Sheriff's deputy responded to a medical emergency in one of the tiers that is housing inmates. Inmate Lennon Delafuente said he fell off his bunk and dislocated his shoulder. Meanwhile, jail commander Shan Hackwell reviewed the video of the tier and reportedly observed Delafuente throw his shirt into a cell and then hold the door open. Reportedly watched inmate Jimmy Voss walk into Delafuente's cell and a ball in his fist and lunged towards the back of the cell. The altercation reportedly lasted about a minute. It's interesting. It does seem like he was defending himself, to be frank. I mean, this guy walked in the cell, and so, but it could be they just didn't like him, and that's why they gave him a felony. And I've started to see that trend in Utah. It does appear to me that COs will give those of these type of offenses write-ups that we don't see other inmates get. So I kind of like the prison justice there, frankly. On that word, frankly, if there is one thing, if you want to look for one positive about this guy that I picked up on, it's that he doesn't say, I'm not going to lie when he talks. He says, or to be honest, I think he doesn't say, I'm not going to lie. He doesn't say, to be honest. He says, to be blunt. And I personally say, to be frank. And I think, now I used to say, I grew up saying, I'm not going to lie, or I'm going to be honest. And a lot of us do say that. It's natural. And I had a mentor tell me one day, don't say that. It's a bad habit. A lot of us do it, but don't do it. Say to be frank. And ever since then, I got in the habit of saying to be frank. He would say to be blunt. So if you want to find one good habit he has, that's it. Although I don't like the word blunt. Blunt is a strong word. It's an aggressive word. And to be frank is a little bit more passive. So, but that's my little 2 cents. So yeah, he got 15 years for the attempted sexual assault. Now the DA gave it attempted. I hate when the DAs do that. And, it's all about legislation and plea deals. But the word attempted is wrong. It drives me nuts. It wasn't attempted. What do you think that's sending the victim? What do you think it's giving him as the opportunity to tell people in the future, I never did it? It's just don't do it, DA. Don't be lazy. Just don't be lazy. And then he got 5 years for the assault by prisoner. So it says here it's just a 20-year sentence, yet he has a 2040 full term date. So I don't. Oh, actually, that is right. Yeah, it is 20. He was sentenced in 2021, and he's a 2040, so that's 15 years plus 5. So they're.
But his first relationship was with you for months on end. And that just really, really warped his sense of not only what's right and wrong with the relationship, but what's right and wrong with humanity. You were a teacher, for God's sake. You should have known. You're around these kids every day, all day. You know how they're having a hard time as a teenager. And you preyed upon that.
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a teacher. A wolf in sheep's clothing, a fox in the hen house, sentenced to 15 years, yet up for parole after just 3. I mean, he was only convicted in 2021. I'll unpack it with the details at the end.
Utah teacher in jail right now, accused of having an inappropriate relationship with a teenager. Good afternoon, everybody. A music teacher facing charges today for unlawful activity with a minor and child.
The teacher is assigned to Evergreen Junior High School in Mill Creek. News specialist Garna Mejia spoke with the parents and a student today who say they were shocked by the arrest. Garna?
Good afternoon. And 36-year-old Jeffrey Zawalski has been teaching here at Evergreen since 2013. Parents tell us they were shocked because he's a well-liked teacher who seemed devoted to his students.
Mr. Zawalski, you were committed to prison on case number 191910224, forcible sexual abuse, second-degree felony, and sexual exploitation of a minor. You were tentatively scheduled for an original hearing back in July of 2022. The hearing was continued to today's date with the expectation that you complete the sex offender treatment program.
Correct.
All right. Before we go over whatever progress you made in that area, I need to go over the offense with you.
Okay.
This offense occurred between May of 2019 and September of 2019. Now, the facts of the offense were laid out in detail in the pre-sentence investigation report that AP&P submitted. In an effort to be sensitive not only to Mr. and also the victim of record, I don't know that I need to go through every detail of what happened, as long as you understand what information is included in that offense summary. Have you had the opportunity to review that?
Yes, I have.
Is the information accurate regarding what occurred?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the
Correct.
extent of the abuse is accurate and how it all occurred is accurate?
Correct.
Okay. If you could provide some information as to how and why this all happened.
Well, finding, the correct words to describe that are honestly not possible. Other than absolute stupidity. Absolute stupidity. I was blind to the things that I was doing. I was blind, not opening my eyes to the catastrophic decisions that I was making and the impact it was going to have on other people. I definitely it was a period of my life when I was, overloaded at work. But like I said, there's no excuse.
Is this something that you had attempted to do prior to committing this offense?
Yep.
Had you ever reached out to underage individuals for this type of interaction?
No, I had not.
Did you notice that you had this type of deviant sexual attraction to minors?
So I did. I think I got to a point where I did not control it as I should have. I didn't take care of my needs. I was in a period of my life when I did not take care of my needs or understand what needs were not being met in my life.
Now, one of the things is I mentioned earlier that the board expected prior to today's hearing is that you complete the sex offender treatment program. The board is in receipt of a report. It's a treatment summary from the sex offender treatment program, which indicates that you are in the program, that you're making progress, and that you're estimated to complete the program by August of this year. Mid-August.
Mid-August, correct.
If you could go over some of the key takeaways from the program, some of the things that you've learned so far by participating in that treatment.
Absolutely. I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about how to recognize my own needs, but also my own weaknesses and things that I have not taken care of for myself in the past. I've learned new methods of coping with them, how to make sure that I am taking care of myself and fulfilling all those needs. I've learned a lot of coping mechanisms, as we call them, protective factors in the rehabilitation section of the treatment. It's been very helpful because it's helped me to see the areas in life that I really do struggle with, things that I'd never really actually, worked towards. And I just kind of left it, with the blind eye. I have learned that. I've learned a lot about boundaries. Boundaries has been a big piece of many of my struggles. I think a lot of that comes from always being a people pleaser. I can see how dangerous that has been and how I have used that many times to cover my tracks. I've come to understand that. I've come to understand what contributes to this kind of behavior, to this, why I use this as an outlet, and not standing up to take control of the situation as I should have.
You've spoken in somewhat generalities. If you could provide some specifics as to what you'll need to specifically do using the things that you've learned thus far to make sure that something like this offense that you committed never happens again.
Absolutely. So the very first and foremost thing is to have a support group that will hold me accountable. And I am very much in agreement with that. And I already have a couple that are already going to be a piece of that. I want them to hold me accountable so that I don't fall. And to be more specific about that will be making sure that I am on task to prevent me from having idle time. That's one of the weaknesses, that I have struggled with a long time. And keeping me on track and holding me accountable when I am not. But also making sure that not only that I check in with them, but also that they check in with me so that they're interactive to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. I definitely have every intention of doing my very best, of being responsible, working, and immediately after I get out of here, I definitely want to get into aftercare immediately.
During the course of programming thus far, have they gone over victim empathy, and do you have an understanding of the harm that these type of offenses have on the victims?
Yeah, I have. It has been, it's been tragic to realize that I didn't see this before. Would you like me to specify?
No, I would like to hear from Mr. at this point. If Mr. If you're willing and able, I would like to take your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson and the board. We ironically just talked about the effect on the victim. My son can't be here today because we got this letter about a month ago informing us of this, and they have to direct all the correspondence to him. And so the letter was addressed to him, and he opened it. Unfortunately, he opened it, and I had asked for the correspondence. For some reason, it came to him, and he for a week held on to that letter and gave me that letter shaking so bad and so white. I thought, I didn't know what was wrong with him, man. I knew something was really, really wrong. My son was 14 when this happened. He had just left his freshman year of high school as the class president. So 900 of his peers voted him the class president. He had the lead in his play, his musical, Mr. Zawalski. And after that, he's been in 3 treatment centers inpatient. He's dealt with drug addiction. He has a hard time with relationships. He has a really hard time talking to his mom and dad about any of this or anybody else. We had to find him. We're on the 5th counselor, and thank goodness we found that's really, really been able to help him. But we're still 6 years into this, or 5 years in, not able to really talk to him about it. He's not able to talk to us about it, which is kind of okay because we would just like to erase this part of our family history, but we can't. We think about it, my wife and I, and my son. I don't really know what he thinks about it because he can't even come to bring me a letter with this. It takes him a week to do it. And I just hope he gets over what this was. His first relationship, he was dealing with his sexuality inside of his head and having a problem with that. But his first relationship was with you for months on end. And that just really, really warped his sense of not only what's right and wrong with the relationship, but what's right and wrong with humanity. You were a teacher, for God's sake. You should have known. You're around these kids every day, all day. You know how they're having a hard time as a teenager. And you preyed upon that. And I appreciate you getting the help you need and all the other stuff. But looking back, you, of all people, should have really known how hard a time these kids are having at that time. And we're here. You pleaded guilty to 2 crimes. They had you on 11. You're supposed to be here for 15 years with those 2 crimes, not including the other 9 that you're on those 2. Let's talk about those 2 crimes. So it's 15 years. You've been here. It's not long enough. I don't know how long it should be. It just is not long enough. And I hope my son was the only one. I really just hope my son was the only one. Nah, that's all I have, Mr. Robinson. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here, the strength that it takes to appear in this type of setting, to represent your son is a great amount of strength. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the comments that you've provided. I will make sure that the board has those statements for their review after today's hearing. Thank you. Mr. Zawalski, anything that you would like to say in response to what you just heard?
There's no words that could ever describe my regrets. No words. And I'm very I would do anything if I could go back and change the past. And I'm so sorry that so many people have had to pay the price for me to go through this, for my stupidity to make these decisions. But an innocent victim, and especially me being a teacher, it's accurate. My regrets are so deep. And there will never be any words that can ever pay the price. There's never any words. I'm very apologetic when I humble myself to the highest. Well, even thinking about a future for myself one day. And I wish that if there's anything I could do, I wish that I could go back and change things. I wish that I could fix it. I wish that I could, pay all the retribution, but there's not. What I can do is I can change myself. I can maintain a close relationship with Heavenly Father above. And I can just keep moving forward, hoping one day, to make things better, however that may be possible.
There's a number of things that the board will have to take into consideration. You do have a maximum 15-year sentence, which puts you at February of 2036.
Correct.
The board takes that into consideration. They also look at sentencing guidelines. Yours in this case is 44 months, puts you at October of 2024. I think that Mr. has accurately reflected the harm that these type of offenses have on victims and also the community. And that impact will have to be taken into consideration in the ultimate decision that the board makes. They'll look at the programming reports, the institutional reports. The 5 board members will review everything and deliberate. Once they reach a majority vote decision, that becomes the board's order.
And what do you think Utah did? What decision did the board make in their almighty wisdom about a teacher, about a wolf in sheep's clothing, about a psychopath, in my opinion, about a man who did not shed a single tear, who did not express any insight, a man who admitted to having deviant thoughts, deviant attraction to minors? Well, they granted parole. As of 4/8/2025, he will be free. That is 11 years before his 2036 full term date, 2050, a 15-year sentence. Can you imagine? In what world, and we'll go over the details, but first I need to get some stuff off my chest. In what world does this make sense? See, to anyone who doesn't have a PhD, to just the sheeple which we are, it's clearly insane. It's madness. But to those running this system, to those who are in charge, to those who are meant to protect us, this is normal. You see, sentencing, it's all gimmicks, especially in Utah. A 15-year sentence, which isn't enough, it should have been more than that. And then to be able to get out after just serving a few years, he was only sentenced in 2021. Maybe he had good time. It's not clear if he made bond. I don't know. But even then, and then to think the way that they treat the survivors, the victims, they send a letter 1 month before the parole hearing. That's what they do. They send a letter to the victim. That's what they do. You hear the pure emotion and trauma in the father's voice, talking about his son who was who was in the class of 500 handpicked to be the valedictorian. He is really, the sweat and blood and tears that we put into our children every moment, every waking day, and then you send him to school, and a teacher, the lives that you alter, that pass the trajectory of where he could have going, where he is now, and you think that parole is warranted? It's insane. Listen to the answers. Did you notice? Not one tear, not one choking up of emotion. I mean, he tried at the end there, remember, and but there was nothing. There's nothing. When asked, why did you do this? He says, absolute stupidity. I was blind to the impact I would have. That's BS. That's not even an answer. I was overloaded with work. You're overloaded with work? Did you notice the parole, which I think he did a good job being respectful and making sure, and just cutting out the crap, but he did the best job he could do as the interviewer. Remember, he's not the one that makes the decision, the parole board interviewer. There's a panel of 5 people that look over his recommendation. I doubt they look at anything. They just, it's just some things in a spreadsheet and a chart. I was overloaded with work. There was no excuse. Did you notice you had this deviant attraction to minors? I did. I got to a point where I did not control it as I should have. I did not take care of my needs. I was at a period in my life where I did not take care of my needs. What does that mean? What is he even referring to there? Now, think about I believe it's important to look at it through the perspective of reality of what happened in the situation. We'll get to the unpacking. I just need to get some stuff off my chest. You can fast forward if you don't want to hear Mandoo ramble. It's important, I think, to realize that here is a man who is attracted to children. This is what he is into. We know this. Now, if someone is this way, then they get a degree and they get a job where they can be the literal fox in the henhouse, to be surrounded by their fantasies every day at work. This is not something that just happened. This is planned. This is a life goal. This was something that he worked and strived for and fantasized about, and then went through with his fantasies. How come the justice system cannot see something that is so clear? And then the punishment, many can argue, he might say it's worth it. It's not that long. There are many that would say, hey, if I could have 6 months with my biggest fantasy, sure, I'll do a few years in prison. There's probably a large percentage of the population that would sign up to that happily. Or just sheep, or what do we know? Right. A junior high school band teacher from the Grand District Cole accused of engaging in sexual relationship with a 15-year-old boy now faces 16 felonies. Jeffrey Luke was charged Friday in 3rd District Court with criminal solicitation of 5 counts of forcible and first-degree felonies, 8 counts of sexual exploitation of minor, 2 counts of dealing with harmful materials to a minor, and 3rd-degree felonies. He was Zawalski, who was the band and music teacher at Evergreen Junior High School in Mill Creek at the time of his arrest, met the victim on the app, according to a search warrant. Between May and September, he would meet the boy at church, by the boys at church, right? You don't see the irony that he has his, what did he say? Of course, it always comes in there. My relationship with God. And he has his preacher show up in support. And look where he's committing his crimes, right? By the boy's house or by an abandoned parking lot and engage in activity. The two met 5 times, according to police. Zawalski was arrested after police assumed the boy's identity online and arranged to meet him in the church parking lot, the warrant states. When Zawalski arrived at the parking lot, believing he would see the boy again, he was taken into custody. After the arrest, he told investigators he had also met with 2 other boys online who were 14 and 15 years old. That's what he admits to. Okay. In addition, he is accused of soliciting explicit photos of the boy. Investigators searched his phone and found 33 photos and 2 videos of the boy. He also sent photos of himself. Can you explain to me why they did not get him with 33 felonies right there? Can you explain to me why they took a plea deal for 15 years, parole after just, I don't know, what was it? I mean, if it 4 years, 5 years? He was a full-time teacher at the school district since 2016, according to the district. Before that, he worked as a charter school in 2006. He did some substitute teacher work in the Granite District. His victims did not attend the school district. Now, this might just be something that they said at the time to protect the students. He's out of that school now, but I take this statement with a grain of salt. Granite School District spokesman Ben Horsley confirmed Friday is no longer employed in the district. And there you go. It is madness that this person is not locked away for the maximum possible sentence. That you cannot have teachers that it's not by accident. The system needs to understand that they are putting themselves in the situation to prey upon children, to meet their fantasies. This is something that was very premeditated and thought out and orchestrated. And even if it wasn't, or even if it's just as the system believes, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. You're a teacher. You get the book thrown at you, but they don't throw the book at them. They don't. And it makes no sense. Where is the justice? Where is the retribution? The victim held that letter with him for a week before he was shaking. It is, the idea that he's going to have to find out that they are paroling this monster. What message that sends to the victim? No compassion has to be reserved for the wolf, for the fox, for the roach. No, the compassion has to be for the victim. And then we have to protect our community. This man, this is what he wants. This is what he's attracted to. Is he going to go the remainder of his life without fulfilling that desire? Did you notice there's no tears? There's nothing there. And then he has, of course, the final statement, which is, if there's anything I can do, if there's anything, there's no words. I wish I could take it back. which is like, do they realize that everyone says, I wish I can go and take it back? How meaningless is that? And I would like to do things to however possible to make it better. I wish I could fix it. And you have an answer to fix it. Don't ask for parole. Don't ask for parole. Thank you, Richard, for providing the research on this. If you want to see, support the channel, help the channel reach 100,000 subscribers, do subscribe. And with that, I'll let you go.
But his first relationship was with you for months on end. And that just really, really warped his sense of not only what's right and wrong with the relationship, but what's right and wrong with humanity. You know, you were a teacher, for God's sake. You should have known. You're around these kids every day, all day. You know how they're having a hard time as a teenager. And you preyed upon that